rather than with a bank who do not have a face many times. It is just faceless organization. So I think as long as that connect we are able to maintain, I think we should be able to create that kind of reach and growth.
Abhijit, in that sense, there's a similarity, right? It's about all customer-client relationship. How is it that you, being a paints company, hold on to your clients, besides, of course, getting Bollywood A-listers to be your brand endorsing your brand?
Yeah, in our case, there is an end customer and then there is the dealer who is a customer, the immediate customer. So you have to take both of them into account. As far as the end customer is concerned, other than the advertisements which we do, you need to really innovate, and find out things which they want. I'll just give you two quick examples. So there is this product which we introduced called Easy Clean. Now, all market research indicated that, in India there are lots of kids at house, and they tend to use these crayons and they will scribble on the walls. And it's a pain, for the family as well. What do we do with that? If you wash it and you try to rub it, there will be this white spot which will, patch which will appear. So it used to be a painful thing for, consumers. So we came out, we went back to our R&D, we said, this is a problem, how do we resolve this? So they came out with a product, whereby, with this crayons also, you can easily wipe it off and the paint color remains. That was the uniqueness of that product. We named that product also very easy to understand, called Easy Clean. And we advertised it with the kids, it just took off. It is still there in the first, brand that is recalled from Burgess Table, that will be Easy Clean. Then, I was in Bangladesh, and in the board of Bangladesh I am there, and they were, our Burgess Bangladesh had created a product called Anti-Dust. They called it Anti-Dirt because there's a lot of dust in Bangladesh, in the Dhaka, and so they wanted to create that product. I thought this is very relevant for India because it's a very dusty area, especially the north, the west, where there's less rainfall.
Even
and
Mumbai now,
yeah. So dust is an issue, and then it creates all those patches on the wall and it looks shabby. The color becomes dull because it is covered with dust. So can we come out with an anti-dust paint? And that's what introduced Weathercoat Anti-Dust, which in the first 2 years itself crossed 200 crores, and it's growing, and continues to grow. Then we came with another, service this time called Express Painting. Now this is, every time even people from, Times Now Network, when they will visit me, they'll say, what paint do you use? I'll ask him generally, because mostly they will be using Asian Paints in Bombay. So they will say, no, but, we have one problem. The problem is that, whenever we go for this painting, there's dust flying around and, my family has to, compromise with that, and then takes endless time. So we came out with a solution called Express Painting, where automatic machines are used, and it can reduce the time by less than half, and it is also absorbing all the dust because there's a vacuum suction attached to it. So when instead of rubbing with a sandpaper, you use a machine which does the same rubbing, and then there is a vacuum suction which sucks out the dust. So, in the process, you do it at much faster, you do it cleaner and do it better. And on top of it, the cost, because you are saving on the labor cost, you pass on that benefit to the customer. So the cost-wise also it is competitive. So that's what we introduced, as an express painting service. We get the largest response from most of these big cities. So those are all innovations which we have, brought about, which we think, if consumers love that, obviously, it helps you to grow faster. It helps you to also make better margins on those products.
Abhijit, can you make a mosquito repellent paint?
We are working incidentally.
You are? Okay.
Yeah.
Can I get royalty for it then? For giving you that idea?
Yeah,
I'm kidding.
So, but that needs a lot of permissions, from the government of India, so that is the main deterrent rather than actually having the product per se. Because, it needs to be very safe because, kids can put it in the mouth and it can be a problem. So, a lot of tests goes around. How long does it stay? All those things are there. So there are products like that, which can help.
Viniti, in your business, there is no advertising. How do you grow?
No, so we grow by adding new products, and operational efficiency is of course very important. You have to keep investing in your existing processes and to keep up to date and to keep your costs low. And one thing our company particularly has been very good at doing is creating wealth from waste or value generating products out of the waste streams. So that has two advantages. One, it reduces your effluence, so you are not worried about environment clearances, etc. And secondly, it actually reduces your cost because you are getting value from the waste stream, which none of our competitors are doing. And that has been one of the reasons why we have leadership in most of our products. So, again, and also when we are adding new products, another thing we look at is integration. For example, you mentioned ATBS. Now, why are we the largest in ATBS? We are the only ATBS manufacturer in the world that is backward integrated. We make its raw material IB, which was not available in India. We were importing it from Taiwan and Europe. Now, from IB, again, now being the largest manufacturer of IB in India, we started thinking, what else can we do next with IB? So now we are making butyl phenols, which again, no one else is making in India.
Which is? For the layman, what is that?
Okay, now there are 4 types of butyl phenols. They go into fragrance industry or plastics, resins, and these 4 chemicals are also imported into India as of now from Singapore, Korea. Because we have IB, the feedstock, we will be the only manufacturer of butyl phenols in India. So this also creates a moat for our ATBS product. So integration, innovation, waste to wealth, clean and green technologies, those have been some of our key mantras.
Umesh, how do you create a moat around your business? Because like you said, there is that big threat from banks, which you don't see arising right now because, again, they're faceless. But what stops the bigger banks from entering into that space and cannibalizing into your business?
See, I really don't imagine a situation where somebody can come and cannibalize, but we always think about it, how to make the customer think of Shriram again, because once you give a loan for 3 years or 4 years, he can always pay from his home and need not remember me at all. So what we have done is, we have now started giving him insurance product, we are giving him tax credit, fuel credit, tire loans. These are all the product which he needs regularly because he need to consume this to run his business. He needs fuel all the time. He needs tire to be changed every 6 months. I give credit to them and make it installment, so that I make him come back to Shriram again and again for various product. It is not just one product it ends with. It is a multiple product. So at the end of it, he will always be remembering Shriram every 2 months or 3 months, because he keeps needing more product, or I should say a sub-product. So that's how the customers are attached to the company, and we also have that kind of relationship where we go and meet the customer quite often, even if not for collection, at least to maintain the relationship, we believe in doing that. And apart from that, we also are a deposit-taking NBFC. We also have a huge deposit base. So even these customers, deposit customers, we don't advertise. We keep a reach to them through intermediaries. We have the agents who keep in touch with the customer, who give service to them. More than 90% of the business what we get is through the intermediaries as far as the deposit is concerned. So there is a constant communication with the customer in some way or other, so that they keep remembering the company, or they take assistance from the company to maintain their business or their investments. So that's how I think creating a constant recollection, that is very important. Advertisement, yes, it helps to create a brand, but we have done more through...
You can take ideas from Abhijit. He's got all the Bollywood A-listers endorsing for him.
We could have taken, we did try some time back, but we felt that it is better to create a reach, because we wanted a reach and a connection to be always with the customer, rather than through TV or newspaper. Maybe I'll take some idea from him and see whether it helps me to build a better brand.
Abhijit, who's next? The brand ambassador.
Well, that's a we are working on it. you know.
Okay,
Yeah.
so there is a change happening
Yes,
there, right?
there is. Yeah.
Okay, Abhijit, just very quickly then, before we wrap up this panel, where is the next market cap addition going to come in from? Is it going to be innovation at Berger Paints, or is it going to be deeper penetration, maybe via organic or inorganic growth?
So combination of both, actually. One is deeper penetration, of course, because there is still a lot of opportunity, as I mentioned, in the industry. And, we have now number 2, but we can scale up much faster. The second is, the waterproofing segment, where we have entered recently. I think, we acquired one company called STP, which is the Salima Tar Products, just 1st of November. And I think, that's a segment which we are looking at very seriously. I think that gives us, further opportunity because, any wall, initially it needs waterproofing and then followed by painting. So it is adjacent to our line of business. We understand it reasonably well. The distribution is similar. The products are very similar to ours. So that's an area where we are getting in a bigger way.
Vinati, 88.25% stock price return in the last 2 years. What are we looking at in the next 2?
No, so for our company also the growth is coming from new products like butyl phenols. Our existing products like ATBS, IVB are also growing steadily. So, I would just say 20% growth year on year for the next 3 to 5 years.
So replicating the 88% is a probability.
Well, you are saying 88% in a quarter. Quarter.
No, in 2 years.
In 2 years, maybe a little less than that, 40-50%, yeah.
Okay, great. That's a solid guidance then. Mr. Revankar?
I would like to grow steady.
I'll give you a reference point, 21.7% in the last 2 years.
I think growth rate may not be at 21%, but I'm happy if I'm able to grow at 15% because I'm talking about AUM growth. But a PAT growth can be much bigger. It depends upon the market condition. But we are confident of maintaining our margins. Our net interest margins have always been maintained, and I hope to increase that.
Abhijit, 97%? I'm still pinching myself in the last 2 years.
Well, this is dependent on, as I said, the re-rating and the expectations is quite high. The industry is, well poised. Of course, whether we will be able to sustain that type of record is difficult to say. I don't think, that's something which can be predicted as well. But we will continue to do our best, in terms of growing our, sales and profit.
You can do better than that. Give us some guidance at least.
No guidance.
Not stock price return, but growth guidance.
Growth guidance can be, reasonably decent. I would say that, we will double digit, is what we would look forward to for sure in terms of top line, and bottom line will be slightly higher than that.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
All the best to all three of you, and I sincerely hope that your stock price doesn't even double, but trebles in the next 2 years when hopefully we chat on the same particular panel. Thank you all so much. Thank you.
Right, thank you so much for joining in, and Ayesha really trying to echo those answers in terms of guidance. It's been lovely having you, ladies and gentlemen. A round of applause. And I'm sure as any veteran investor will tell you, the quality of management is the first principle when it comes to investing. And this discussion certainly showed us why these stocks are an absolute favorite in the investor community. From the micros of the stock market to the macros of the economy. If there is one leg of the India story that's taken a huge beating in the last 1 year, as we discussed in the panel, it has been a fall in consumption demand. And that's been a key factor in India's economic slowdown. The slowing rural and urban incomes and the NBFC crunch, those are some of the triggers. But even as the sales of biscuits and innerwear may be slowing, millennials sure are spending enough time online to shop, travel, and eat. So is there a dichotomy at play? What is it going to take to revive India's consumption story? Will a tax relief for individuals actually work? To discuss this and more, please welcome on stage Puneet Chhatwal, CEO Indian Hotels, Shekhar Ramamurthy, the CEO at UBL, Devita Saraf, who is the founder and CEO of View Technologies, as well as Ravneet Pahwa, who is the Deputy VP Global Engagement and CEO South Asia at Deakin University. And to moderate this discussion is Mirror Now's Tanvi Shukla. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause as we welcome our speakers on stage.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Tanvi, and for the next half hour, we're going to be talking a little bit about the Indian consumer, their spending and consuming patterns, and what can be changed to really revive and find the Indian consumer and bring them back to the market. We've already introduced you to our panelists, so I think I'm just going to jump into this conversation right away. I was just looking at some data before I came here, and the RBI's Consumer Confidence Survey that came out on 5th of December paints a very, very grim picture. And I'm sure y'all or everybody else in this audience doesn't need to be told and just how bad things are. The theme and the topic for today is consumption is the bottom in sight. So I actually just want a quick response from all of you to begin with, to say, do you believe we've hit the rock bottom? Or is the bottom in sight? Should we start talking about a turnaround already? Just a quick answer so we know where we stand. Let's start with you, Puneet.
I don't see that things are really that bad in our sector, because consumption of hotel rooms and eating and dining in restaurants, including this conference using the Taj Land's End, is working quite well. There is definitely a bad sentiment in the market, which is having an impact on the increase in rates in our industry. But I do believe that, there is a change in the season. So it's a wedding season, it's a festive season, it's a Christmas, it's a New Year. We can be cautiously optimistic that things might change, but the winds of what I would call it, uncertainty are very, very strong and have been for the last 6, 8, 9 months. I think we tend to forget whether it's a terror attack in Sri Lanka or it is something happening in our own country, in the Northeast or whatever. All this has a general impact when you read the news, when you open the papers. It has an impact on how you think, how you behave, and how you spend your money. So that definitely is there. We cannot ignore it in any of our industries where consumption is concerned. But I am, for our industry and for our business, I'm cautiously optimistic.
So, cautiously optimistic is often a phrase which is thrown at the journalists from corporate India when they don't want to get into the details. I'm not going to let you go on cautiously optimistic.
I have to answer that. See,
Yes.
the thing is that there is not one size fits all. So we have just opened a hotel in Tirupati. Right? So if you're going to Tirupati, you'll go to Tirupati. It doesn't matter what the consumption is or consumption is not. If you have holidays, and we have a lot of resort hotels, people are going on the holidays, is maybe they don't go this year to Goa, they might go to Kovalam or they might go to Coorg or whatever. So I think it depends also from company to company how diversified is your portfolio. If you're only in one track of business, if you're only in business hotels, then obviously things will slow down during Christmas, New Year, and nothing will happen. But if half of your portfolio is in resorts, then they will keep the revenue growing. So I think that's what makes me optimistic, is how diversified our portfolio is and how our asset class is.
Shekhar, I don't know if this, the entire conversation is the same for the tourism industry as it is for consumer durables and, for companies like UBL. The general assumption is that it doesn't matter whether you're happy or sad, whether the economy is going up or down, people are probably still going to turn to the same alcohol beverage that they do otherwise. Is there a slowdown in your sector?
So you've already put a smile on my face by saying that, but you know, it's an oft believed aphorism. You know, unfortunately, people don't think like that. People do slow down. But you know, coming back to your original question, I'm one of those, you know, as Puneet said, is cautiously optimistic. I know, just to elaborate on that, I think if we look at our country, and as various speakers said earlier in the morning too, we are such an underpenetrated category, underpenetrated business in every category, whether it is beer, whether it's hotels, cosmetics, steel, cement, whatever you take. We are just about $2,000 per capita GDP country, 3 trillion economy. We have a long, long way to go. Yeah, of course, everybody wants that growth to be double-digit year on year. That may not happen. There are various pulls and pushes in our country, in our economy, in our political system, in our social framework, which acts as checks and balances, which is good. And I'm not getting into a discussion what is good and what is not good here. But I genuinely believe a country like ours, things will always grow for the next 50 years, 100 years.
Yes, but it matters if you're growing at 16% versus if you're growing at 7% for the industry.
So Tanvi, my point is we will not grow at 16%. My belief is we will grow 7, 8, 9, 10%.
We go down to 3 or are
it can go down to 3, it'll go back to 10, but we will grow. This country will not go into genuine recession. For the next 50, 100 years, we are a 2,000 per capita GDP country. People drink 2.5 liters of beer per capita. The global average is 30. I mean, it must be the same in his business and same in so many other businesses. If the global average is 30 liters per capita, developed world is at 70, 80. We have a long way to go. Do I want to get there tomorrow? Yes. Today I don't have the infrastructure to feed 20 liters per capita, but the point is we will grow. Yes, there is pain today. People not spending enough, they're cautious. But again, because the way our country and economy is, the rich aren't impacted. You know, we're really a country where I tell people we are the first world, second world, third world, which coexist next to each other. The first world India doesn't feel the impact. The first world India is still spending, first world India is still holidaying, first world India is drinking, eating, buying. Yeah, they may be postponing buying cars. It's sentiment. So,
but Puneet just told us that he's struggling with the pricing power, that you can't have the prices that you would want to.
It's not I am struggling, the whole world is struggling.
Yes.
See,
amongst the hotels who are still existing.
The prices are not increasing the way they used to. And there is a reason for it. The reason is very simple, that look at the global inflation level. So pricing is a combination of your cost of capital, and cost of capital always includes the inflation factor. If all that has come down to 0%, the pricing power is damaged. So it's not that rates are not increasing in India, rates are also not increasing in Germany, they're not increasing in France. More or less at the same rates. And Paris and London cannot be your benchmark, because France does not just have Paris and UK does not just have London. So this is just a global reality, and we are working in a global marketplace. And I actually agree with Shekhar. When I used the word of, I only talked about short term. Long term, India is a great opportunity, and there will be quarters like this and quarters like that. The question is how you take a long-term view of things, and we can't take, especially in our businesses, we can't take decisions only on, quarter se quarter tak. That doesn't work.
So, two questions based on what you just said, and before I go across to the ladies. One, what did you do differently in this festival season, starting now till say Christmas and New Year's, like you pointed out, to ensure that business doesn't get so impacted? And since you mentioned long term, when will you start opening up more hotels at the pace you were doing, say, 3 years ago?
Let me answer the second one first. We are opening more hotels than we ever opened before. We are signing more. So in the last 20 months, we have signed more than 40 contracts. If we were signing at that speed, in our 116-year-old legacy, then we would have been at 3,000 kind of a number.
Right.
But we are not just only signing; we are opening a hotel a month. That's what we have guided the markets on, and that is a promise we have made, and we are delivering or over-delivering on that promise too. The second important thing is we are not doing that by using our capital. We are balancing our business model through fee-based business and providing a service, so we have a balanced portfolio. And last not least, I will not give all the tricks that we use and all the tactical measures we take to fill up our hotels. The data clearly indicates, and that's what was indicated on our Q2 results and also in Q1 results, that for the companies where the data is available, that we have outperformed and we have gained on the market share.
Correct.
And how we get that market share, definitely I'm not telling this to everyone. That's also a fee-based business. If I get a fee for Indian hotels.
Many of them came just to hear that. What's working for Indian hotels?
Then we can meet in the break and we can say how that works. But definitely all the tricks I'm not giving away.
Okay, so actually just to take the point that you made, and Davina, if I can bring that to you. The last time we saw a slowdown or a downturn like this, many of the companies use that opportunity to diversify, to try new products, to try new services, to enter in places they would have probably otherwise not dared to do. If they're launching new, versions of beer right now, you probably are looking at newer products. Is this a good time to test the market and see how the consumer is changing and how you adapt yourself to that?
Well, I strongly believe that you shouldn't waste a bad economy. There are fantastic opportunities even in a bad economy that a company should grow towards. In terms of the consumer today, the biggest challenge is, if you ask what is an Indian consumer, it's very hard to paint one picture, because at one point you have a very new consumer who is probably used to buying online, who is waiting for an EMI or a cashback. You have the other consumer who's a bit more traditional. He is looking for retail. He wants brands he can trust. Now, as a company in electronics, very often what people do is they say, hey, this is my moat, which can be either my distribution, my manufacturing, the traditional way business is done. And when the economy falls, it's these larger and more traditional companies that tend to become a lot more vulnerable, because you have younger companies then finding opportunities for either a change in product or distribution or the like. The other opportunity is for smaller companies who are looking to enter the business or who aren't in the industry. Say the television business has had about 50, 60 new players every year for the past few years. In a bad economy, maybe they will stall their plans. So it's always better, at least I think, to be an entrepreneur, you have to be a serial optimist. And Diwali's actually done really well for us at View. And I sometimes feel guilty saying that in a forum that, we reached our numbers. When I see so many companies today in Economic Times, it was reported just how many television players are making losses, is to first say, first of all, everything is much cheaper. You want to hire people, you want to, probably look for a hotel room, you want to buy anything, it's definitely available at a better rate as a company. Secondly, this is also time for trial and error. Indian consumers are extremely agile today. They've adapted to technology as fast as or even faster than the Western world. The question is, how are you going to make use of this time? You are at the weakest, fair enough, your competitors are the weakest. Is this the time for you to actually be a lot more aggressive? Because remember one thing, in a bad economy, people will always want to do what feels good. So I think when it comes to hotels and alcohol or even buying luxury products, people will say, okay, as long as I can afford it, I want to do this. People's habit to consume in India is not going to reduce. People are used to consuming. They'll probably consume wisely, but they're not going to stop consuming. So at least for us at View, the one thing that we look at is, yes, there is going to be a change in the market. Maybe there isn't as much liquidity as there used to be. But how can you find that you are buying cheaply and still selling to a consumer who is looking for a price benefit and gaining market share when all your competitors also are feeling weak?
Ravneet, do you want to come in on this, the aspect of who was this consumer that we are dealing with? And Indian consumers are also constantly changing. She spoke a little bit about it. There was a comment that the finance minister made a few months ago that probably grabbed the headlines for all the wrong reasons, but perhaps there was merit there when she said that the millennials don't want to buy cars, but they're okay taking an Uber or an Ola. Are companies able to sense the change and adapt accordingly?
I think I agree with her about, that when you feel that the economy is sort of not at its best, how do you make the best of it is something that we need to think about. And yes, the millennials are looking at what is it that I'm going to do that is at my time, in my flexibility, in my space. So as long as, we can come up with things that can provide that space to that consumer, you are really hitting that segment
So
of
for
the
example,
market.
how are you now reaching out to youngsters who may be looking for opportunities to go abroad and study for better education? Is this a time where families also pull back and say, okay, maybe not this year, maybe we'll send him or her next year?
I think there's a level of caution, but if you actually look at the international education market, there are 350 million people in the middle class in India, and extremely aspirational. Now, there are parents who will mortgage their houses, not go on holidays, not do things that they have to do, but invest in education. That is the Indian mindset, even today. So, when there was a time, a couple of years back, people would think about international education as completely out of the blue, and only 1% of the people would be thinking of that. Today, 700,000 students are studying overseas. Australian education, international education has grown by 38%. Canada has grown by 80%. And this is not small money. Every single student is spending more than $150,000.